Welcome to the Sparkroom webinar series. Sparkroom provides full-service, data-driven marketing and technology solutions to ignite your performance marketing. Our webinars provide actionable advice and insight to help you better strategize, execute, analyze, and optimize your marketing campaign efforts.
Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome everyone to today's webinar, Paid Search Benchmarking Insights for Higher Education, the first half of 2015. My name is Michelle Verlin, and I'm the Marketing Manager here at Sparkroom, the leader in performance marketing for the higher education industry. We provide fully transparent, analytics-based strategies that are designed to do one thing: achieve your enrollment marketing objectives. Our superior combination of marketing services and industry-leading marketing software gives schools a competitive advantage, allowing for improved efficiency and better conversion rates. On your screen, you can see the 2015 Leads Council Leader Awards that Sparkroom recently won. These awards showcase the two sides of our business: a gold award for Best Marketing Agency and a silver award for Most Valuable Technology. Our fabulous presenters today are Chelsea Hicken, Sparkroom's Senior Paid Search Strategist, and Sam Ferrula, Sparkroom's Paid Search Strategist. Chelsea has almost a decade of experience in the marketing field, and she utilizes paid search campaigns to help schools grow their brands and generate qualified inquiries to meet their business goals. Sam has several years of experience in the education space and focuses on building strong client relationships and growing their success through campaign analysis and optimization. Before Chelsea and Sam get started, let me alert you to a few housekeeping notes. First, I'd like to point out some functionality on your webinar control panel, which is located in the top right corner of your screen. If you can't see it, look for an orange box with an arrow. If you click on the arrow, the box will expand. If you have any questions during the session, please type your questions into the question box and they will be addressed at the end of the presentation. Second, I'd just like to assure everyone that in a few days, I'll be sending out a recording of today's presentation, as well as a copy of the presentation itself to all of you. Again, thank you for joining us, and I'll pass things over to Sam to get us started.
Thanks, Michelle. So this paper was originally prepared to provide higher education marketers like yourselves with the information you can use to execute highly efficient paid search campaigns. In this presentation, we'll talk through all of the aspects of the paper, including the important definitions and acronyms used throughout and the various sections of the paper listed here. So we'll go through some global benchmarks, device, degree, program analyses, search engine performance, and essential campaign planning strategies. So looking at some definitions, when we reference branded terms, we're referring to keywords that utilize the school's name or other branded or trademark terms. And just on the other side, non-branded terms are keywords that do not utilize the school name or branded or trademark terms. Underneath branded terms, we've broken out general terms for you. And these are terms that do not utilize the school name, but also don't specify a competitor and are not tied to any site links or remarketing campaigns. So these would be terms like bachelor degree programs, online schools, or cosmetology programs. Impressions are each time a paid search ad is actually shown within the paid search results. And then the click is the actual act of clicking on that paid search ad. The image at the right is an example of the impression and click process. So after a user would search a term like Sparkroom, they'd be shown an ad like the one you see here. If they actually click on that ad, they're brought to a landing page. If they fill out the form for more information, they're considered a click conversion. And if Sparkroom were a school, once they became an enrollment, for the purposes of this report, they'd be considered an application, enrollment, or start. Taking a look at some global benchmarks. So we're often asked by our clients how their paid search campaigns are performing compared to other schools. So we came up with this section. The data in this section is global data from all Sparkroom managed Google campaigns. And it's important to note that every campaign is unique and slight variations in objectives, setup, or optimizations can drastically impact performance. So we broke this section out here into branded and non-branded terms. And as expected, our branded terms have lower CPCs, higher click-through rates, and lower CPLs than the non-branded terms. And this is really all because competition on branded keywords is much less than what you'd see with non-branded terms. Non-branded terms do represent a larger volume of impressions, clicks, spend, and leads. These terms capture users really at the top funnel while they're usually just beginning their research into program or campus information. Brand terms catch users ready to engage with a specific school by name. And we do usually see brand terms outperform non-branded terms when it comes to the click conversion rate. However, we do have a few large clients this year that have taken a very aggressive approach to their non-branded terms. And while they've seen success from conversion rate standpoint, they are willing to pay a significant amount more for those leads. This can be beneficial to schools with larger budgets and those willing to pay more per lead, but it really isn't going to be an efficient approach for schools on a tight budget. So taking a look at some volume trends, this is lead volume by month, and this is based on Google-only global client data, and it shows the progression of lead volume from January 2014 through June 2015. Our paid search channel has remained more stable year over year than volumes for some of our other channels. Volume really only declined for paid search by about 8% compared to almost 18% for other channels. And this can be attributed to the continued importance of paid search and the delivery of quality over quantity of leads for the education industry. Not surprising, volume peaked in January. It's traditionally one of the highest volume performing months for the EDU space as a whole. Lead volume was up for Q2 year over year. This was mostly due to one of our large clients launching a click-to-call campaign, but as a whole, it will likely follow the usual seasonal trends we see with a dip moving into Q4 and into the holiday season. So taking a look at some conversion trends here. So in addition to being able to track front-end metrics, our Sparkoom software allows us to measure contact, transfer, interviews, applications, enrollments, and starts back to the actual keyword searched. And this is valuable information for us when making campaign optimizations. So the data here is broken out at the summary level and again by campus or online programs. And these numbers aren't going to add up to 100, and it's really because we left out any campaigns that included competitor data, site link data, or remarketing data. But as you'll see here, for campus-based programs, brand terms account for only 36.2% of the overall lead volume, but enroll at a much higher rate, 10.1, compared to 6.6 for general. When looking at online programs, general leads account for 57.4% of overall lead volume and enroll at a higher rate, 10.5% compared to 9.4 for brand terms. One of the main factors behind this is the strong brand recognition that we usually associate with the school in the area in which they have campus locations. So that's why it's not a surprise that brand performs better for our campus-based programs. And I'm going to pass it over to Chelsea now to talk about some device analysis.
Thank you, Sam. So this next section takes a look at the performance of our Sparkoom clients by device, so analyzing mobile devices, tablets, and desktop computers. So mobile has been top of mind for the past few years, and rightfully so. The mobile audience is growing by leaps and bounds, and there really is no sign of that slowing down. Google showed that mobile EDU search queries increased 29% year over year in Q2 of this year. This year also marks the point where mobile queries officially surpass those of desktop. So we do see that with our Sparkoom client data, and we'll be going through some of the stats highlighting the performance of mobile compared to other devices for our actual clients. These next two slides help to visualize the growth of mobile that we've seen over the past few months. So this first chart is showing the breakdown of clicks by device for the first half of 2015. Here we see that clicks from mobile, which is the green line, surpassed those coming from desktop, which is in orange, in June of this year, after being below desktop volume in prior months. Mobile had represented 39% of the clicks in January 2015, and then by June, mobile was representing 48% of the clicks. So definitely a huge jump that we saw over those few months. This next chart is showing the share of actual inquiries by device. Here we see that mobile and desktop were pretty neck and neck in early 2015, and then mobile starts to break away after Q1. Again, mobile is in that green line and desktop is in orange. Mobile had brought in 43% of all of the inquiries in January, and by June, mobile was bringing in 54% of the inquiries, so an 11% increase in inquiry volume coming from mobile devices in just those few months. So mobile is definitely an area of focus for our clients. Not only is mobile bringing in more clicks and inquiry volume, it's also performing really well from an enrollment standpoint. Both branded and general keyword types have higher enrollment rates on mobile devices than they do on desktop computers. Brand terms convert at 9% on desktop, but at 11% on mobile devices. And general terms convert at only 7% on desktop, but at 8% on mobile devices. We also see higher conversion rates on mobile for remarketing ads, with a nearly 10% enrollment rate compared to only 3% on desktop. Although tablet volume overall is still significantly lower than that of desktops or mobile devices, overall conversion rates are higher on tablets. Some people believe this is because owners of tablets may be more likely to have reliable internet access than those who don't own a tablet. Unfortunately, we as marketers are limited as to how much we can really target and influence tablets. Bing does still allow you to bid specifically on tablet devices, but Google lumps tablets with desktop, so for the same desktop bid. So given that the bulk of our volume comes from Google and Bing traffic is pretty low overall, our potential to really influence tablet volume is pretty low. So now digging a little bit deeper into some of the stats on the device performance for online versus campus programs. For online programs, mobile devices delivered 38% of all online program enrollments compared to 54% from desktops. So more volume is still coming from computers here. And in addition to driving more volume, desktop computer inquiries also convert to enrollments better than mobile devices for the online programs. For the first half of this year, desktop campaigns had an enrollment rate of 10% versus only 9% for mobile. However, even though desktop computers are driving more volume and they do have a slightly higher enrollment rate, mobile is still a more cost-effective channel than desktop for online programs. The CPCs are lower, the CPLs are lower, and the cost per enrollment is lower than it is on desktop. The average mobile CPC was nearly $5 cheaper in 2015 than on desktop. And the average mobile cost per enrollment was 12% lower than the average desktop cost per enrollment for online programs. For campus-based programs, we see similar enrollment volume. Mobile delivers about 45.2% of the enrollments and desktop delivers 44.7%. Mobile devices do convert at higher rates than desktop computers for campus-based programs. They have an enrollment rate of 9% for mobile versus only 7% for desktop. And mobile devices had a slightly higher average CPC, but still achieved a more efficient cost per enrollment due to that higher enrollment rate, which was 18.5% lower than the average desktop cost per enrollment for campus-based programs. We are now definitely seeing that wider gap between mobile and desktop performance than we did last year. Last year, the difference in enrollment rates between mobile and desktop was only 0.04%, with mobile performing just slightly better than desktop computers. This year, the mobile enrollment rate is a full 1% higher than that of desktop, with an even wider gap for campus-based programs. We definitely expect this gap to continue as more and more schools take advantage of mobile campaigns and further optimize towards that audience. So this next section is going to walk through some of the highlights from a degree level analysis, and this is based on global Sparkroom data. This first chart is showing the share of inquiry volume change by degree type from January to June of 2014 versus January to June of 2015. So here we see that the most significant growth was for master's degrees, with 71% more volume this year than in 2014. Bachelor degrees also had significant growth, with nearly 54% more volume this year. Both associate and certificate programs saw year-over-year declines, with only small growth for the diploma level. So overall, we are seeing somewhat of a shift towards those higher degree levels, but this is also a reflection of the particular types of schools in our system that all tend to primarily offer bachelor's degrees and above. And even though the PPC channel did see some declines for certificate programs, we see that that degree level is doing better overall for our other channels. This next chart is showing the volume of inquiries by degree type by month. So here we see that bachelor's degrees delivered more inquiries than any other degree type, representing 35% of all inquiry volume from search campaigns in the first half of the year, which again, this is representative of the schools in our system that primarily offer that type of program. Again, although certificate degrees had an overall loss in volume for the first half of 2014 to the first half of 2015, if we look at just the month of June, that level had the strongest year-over-year volume growth for just June at over 400%. So there is clearly more interest in that level more recently. Doctorate degrees had the biggest year-over-year volume loss for June, 82% down, yet still showed overall growth for the first half of the year. Bachelor's and master's degrees both showed significant year-over-year growth for Q1 and Q2. And looking specifically at the breakdown for campus versus online programs, so the enrollment rate for campus-based bachelor's and master's programs increased year-over-year for June, while all other degree types showed some type of decline. Online programs also saw year-over-year declines for June for all degree types, but again, we have to acknowledge that some of this decline for recent months is related to the fact that these recent inquiries have just not yet fully matured. This next section walks through some highlights from a program level analysis, again, based on global Sparkoom data. So with this first chart, we're looking at the share of inquiry volume change by program category. So looking at the change from the first half of 2014 to the first half of 2015 of the top 10 program categories, and this is sorted by inquiry volume. The program that stands out here is nursing registered nurse, which significantly outperformed the rest of the top 10 program categories. And this growth wasn't just limited to paid search. We saw this category had strong inquiry volume across all media channels in the first half of the year. Healthcare administration and management is another program that saw significant volume growth year over year, followed by general studies and other nursing related programs outside of the core degree levels listed with that top result. The criminal justice police science program category experienced the biggest year-over-year volume decline of those top 10 programs, with medical assistant, welding, and liberal arts programs also seeing year-over-year declines in volume there. It is important to note here that despite these individual trends, we do see that the volume from the paid search channel in general has remained much more stable over the past 10 quarters than it has via other channels. Like we mentioned earlier, there's been a decline of about 8% for PPC volume overall year over year, but that's compared to a much broader decline of about 18% for all other channels. So that really does speak to the fact that PPC on a whole continues to increase in importance for these education marketers. So with that, I'll pass it back over to Sam to take a look at the search engine performance.
Thank you. So in past benchmarking reports, we've really only focused on Google performance since it does account for the overwhelming majority of our client spend. But this time around, we really wanted to take a look to see how Bing has been performing for our clients compared to how it does in Google. So in this section, we took a look at a sample set of our highest volume clients who run on both Google and Bing. You'll see here that Google accounts for the largest share across the board for impressions, clicks, spend, and leads. The Google share of spend is higher than its share of impression and clicks, and that's because the CPCs are 164% higher than those on Bing. So as you see there, the Bing CPCs average around $3.19, while the Google CPC is up around $8.43. So this speaks really to the difference in the competition between the two engines. And since competition is lower on Bing, we're able to take advantage of paying less per click while showing in a better average position than what we can do on Google. Google does have a higher conversion rate, but because the Bing CPCs are so much lower, we're able to deliver leads at a much more cost-efficient CPL. And although cost across the board is lower on Bing, we've had a real challenge scaling this channel for growth, which is why Google accounts for so much of the impression and click volume for our clients. In closing, we wanted to prepare some takeaways and action items that can be used within your paid search campaigns based on the data that we've presented here today. First, branded keywords are a must. We're often asked by our clients, why should we pay for clicks when our organic listings rank in position 1? And we do this for a couple of reasons. So as we discussed earlier, brand CPCs and CPLs are significantly cheaper than those non-branded terms. But most importantly, a recent study showed that when a brand is bidding on their own branded terms, they actually receive about 88 to 91% of the click volume. And conversely, when they're not bidding on their brand, they receive only 60 to 61% of click traffic. Next, mobile traffic is absolutely essential. So as we showed earlier, mobile click and inquiry traffic recently surpassed desktop for our clients. ComScore also released a report that stated mobile queries across the internet were about 29% of the total search volume. And Google actually confirmed this past May as well that they're seeing more of their searches take place on mobile devices than on computers in about 10 countries. Next, there's really no need to spend time thinking about tablets. We talked in the device analysis portion about how tablets have lower volume but higher conversion rates than mobile and desktop traffic. However, only Bing still allows separate management of tablet campaigns. And considering how low volume is for both tablet and Bing traffic, the impact on tablet-specific performance really will be minimal. And lastly, it's okay to stay exclusively Google. Despite the lower CPCs and CPLs, the volume is almost always limited on Bing. You can spend a lot of time chasing a small amount of leads. If you have the resources and the budget, absolutely go for it. But if your time is limited and every minute matters, it's completely reasonable to have a paid search campaign that's 100% Google. So I'm going to pass things off back to Michelle for any questions.
Thank you so much, Chelsea and Sam. Now, as Sam mentioned, we'll take questions. Again, if you have any, please type them into the question box on your webinar control panel. If you can't see the control panel at the moment, look for the orange box with the arrow, click on the box, and the control panel will expand. All right, so we already have a couple of questions that were sent in. The first one for you ladies is, how does a limited budget affect the efficiency or effectiveness of a PPC campaign? Can we do this with a limited budget?
So you definitely can run a paid search campaign with a limited budget. You just have to make sure that the goals and the structure are in line with what you're setting out to do. If you have a really small budget, no, you can't run in all 50 states and bid competitively for, say, an online MBA program. But if you have a tightly geo-targeted campaign with day parting in place and are realistic about the keywords that you're going to bid on, you can absolutely have a successful campaign with a smaller budget.
Great, thank you so much, Chelsea. The next submitted question was, of a school's marketing budget, what is the average % that is spent on paid search? Is there an average?
I would say it varies by school, but we are seeing a gradual trend towards more and more of that budget being allocated to paid search. I think years ago it was a very small percentage, and this year and moving into next year, I think it's going to make up a very large percentage of a school's budget, or at least it should be.
Okay. I mean, so it's really difficult. You can't give a certain percentage. It varies across every school.
I think it varies depending on how aggressive that school is, how many other channels they're running in, all that.
I think PPL in particular still has the overwhelming majority of most schools' budgets. But I think one of the slides that we touched on before showed the amount of growth that was year over year, and paid search had seen less of a decline than some of the other channels did. And it is because, like Chelsea said, I mean, more schools are pulling some of their budget to paid search. It's where you tend to see higher converting leads when it comes to enrollments and starts. And I think a lot of schools are starting to realize that.
Okay, great, thank you. Let's see, the next question is, what are your thoughts on second tier search engines?
We've tested them in the past. For the most part, again, it comes down to budget. If you have a budget and you're willing to test them for a short period of time, it won't hurt. But for the most part, when we have tested them in the past, they can drive a ton of lead volume at very efficient CPLs. But most of the times when we looked at the back-end conversions, we saw CPEs, cost per enrollments, and cost per starts way outside of client goals. So for the most part, we tend to stay away from them. If we can scale the campaigns within Google and Bing and hit client goals there, we typically don't really use second-tier search engines.
Okay, great, thank you. With more people searching than ever, why do you think volume is down year over year?
So that all comes back to increased competition. So we've seen from some of the recent Google slides that the overall auction landscape is getting more and more expensive. So the CPCs are higher. The overall ads shown per query are declining. So if fewer ads entering the auction, that's really limiting the potential for each advertiser. I know with Google's recent Q3 review, even though the overall ads per query were down, mobile ads per query were up. So there is more potential for mobile clicks, and there is an area of opportunity there, even though the overall landscape is just getting more and more competitive.
Great, thank you. How can a marketer increase their brand's traffic?
So it's hard to scale brand within paid search. We kind of look at paid search as a catch-all. It's really a bottom of the funnel channel. These are people who are usually very high intent and they're already familiar with your brand, so they come looking for you by name. We've seen great success with some of our clients who also run targeted display, who are heavy with TV, radio, Pandora, other channels like that that kind of drive brand awareness at the top level. And then those people who see the ads, they come through paid search and actually search for the school by name. But there really is no way to kind of grow brand awareness with just a straight paid search campaign.
Great, thank you so much for your answers to all of our questions today. If anyone has any further questions after this webinar, feel free to contact Chelsea and Sam. You can email them at webinars@sparkroom.com. For more information on Sparkroom's products and services, as always, you can visit sparkroom.com. You can download the paid search benchmarking report at sparkroom.com/resources. If you missed any of the information or you'd like to have another look at the presentation deck, don't worry. We'll be sending you an email the next couple of days that contain a link to the recording as well as a PDF of the deck itself. Thank you again for joining us. I hope everyone has a great afternoon.
Thank you for your time. For more performance marketing resources, including our series of on-demand webinars, go to sparkroom.com/resources.